Hi everyone, my name is Nika and today we'll be ranking all of the things I knit in 2023. This was my first year of knitting and I have a total of 9 items on this list. But before we get started, we need to make some tiers for the ranking. And here's what I came up with. Let me scooch over to the side so I can put it on the screen. So the first tier is going to be daily. These are the items that I made so well that I literally wear them on the daily. I wear them every single day, I use them. So this is the best tier that they can get into. The next tier is special occasion. This means that I do wear these items, but not every single day. I wear them on certain special occasion days. Something must have gone slightly wrong with it. It doesn't satisfy me as much, but I still do enjoy wearing them. The third tier is A for effort. And what that means is literally there was effort, but there was nothing else. This tier is going to be for items that I think were representative of my skill at the time. So I did a solid effort on them and they turned out pretty much as well as they could with the level of skill that I had. We live next to the subway, so if you can hear some subway sounds in the background, I do apologize. The second to last tier is going to be Who tier, aka Forgotten Valley. This tier is going to be for the items I A, either forgot they existed, or B, they have been in my unfinished objects pile for months now. So yeah, something must have gone really wrong there. And the last tier is going to be cursed, and I think that's pretty self-explanatory. But basically, something went so wrong that I legitimately think these items are cursed, or something was going really badly in my life at that time that they turned out so horribly. I do not want to look at them and I kind of wish I could burn them. So yeah, these are my 5 tiers for the ranking and let's get started. So these are 8 of the items that I made. Well, 9, but there's like another extra one that I counted in the 9. So anyway, I'll explain when we get there. So I'm going to go through them following the timeline of the year. So I'll start with the very first one that I made in the beginning of 2023 and I'll just go from there. And I think now is a good time for me to say that I kind of cheated there in a sense that some of these items I made at the end of 2022, but this is still early December and I wanted to include sort of all the items that I was able to knit within my first year of knitting. And I started literally November 2022, November, December. So we're gonna start from there. So I'm still gonna count it as a 2023 item and hopefully that is okay with you all. So let's start, shall we? Now, the first item that I made was this green muffler. So this item, I got all the supplies, I got the pattern, I got the needles, I got the yarn online because I didn't know where to start. This yarn comes in this gorgeous green color and it is a cotton yarn and I knit this muffler with 5mm needles. This is done just with a basic stockinette stitch and then I kind of folded it at the end. This yarn is really soft for the cotton that it is. That being said, of course, it is cotton, so it's not going to be extremely warm, but I do wear this on days where I do not need a warm scarf, but I just want to have something around my neck to protect it from the wind or just the cold air. So for that purpose, I think it is really great and I'm really happy with how it turned out. The only thing that kind of went a little wrong with it is I was being a very overambitious me at the beginning of my knitting journey, and I thought that the length that they suggested in the pattern was a little bit too short, so I made it a bit longer. Well, turns out the a bit longer part was completely unnecessary. It is a tiny bit too long, but it doesn't bother me that much. Nonetheless, I absolutely love this muffler. I wear it every single day where I just need something around my neck, so this is absolutely going into the daily. Now, the second item that I knit is this beanie, and oh my god, can you see this color? This is like the most gorgeous Christmassy winter wonderland like holiday spirit red I have ever seen. I absolutely adore this color. This was made from some leftover yarn that I had. I believe this is probably acrylic, but I do not have the tag for the yarn sadly anymore. But the pattern I got from Kutovakika, and I mean, I just have to say I absolutely love her patterns. I love following her vlogs and her journey with her pregnancy right now. I love her channel so much, and I'm going to link the video that I used for making this hat. If you see me look down, that's because I'm looking at my notes. The construction of this hat is quite simple. You literally just knit it in stockinette stitch, and then there is a rib at the bottom, and then it is cinched at the top. So a very simple construction, but perfect for a beginner project. What I have to say is there are a few things that I'm unhappy with this hat. First of all, I ended up making it too small. I don't know what went wrong there, but basically when I wear it, it kind of squeezes my head, so it's a little bit too tight. And for some reason, I again decided that the length that Kutovakika suggested was a bit too short for me. So just in case I decided to make it longer, well, that makes it look a bit too long, which is kind of awkward when you wear it. So I wish I wouldn't have done that. And the last thing, this is acrylic yarn. It does not protect you from the wind. It is not very warm. And I kind of wish I would have made it in wool or some sort of material. But again, I didn't know much about yarns when I started. That being said, I am absolutely in love with this color. So just for that reason alone, this is going to go into special occasion, because I am definitely going to wear this on Christmas Eve. So at this point, I have this extra item that I actually didn't include in my list of 9 things. So this is sort of item 2.5, because I made this basically at the same time as the red beanie that I showed you. I don't have a pattern for this. I honestly don't even know what I did with this. I'm pretty sure this is just 2 knits and purl, and you just repeat that over and over and over again. But yeah, I don't actually wear it. It's just in my storage box, but the color is nice again. Now this next bit, oh my god. Oh, this is the bulkiest item that I have out of my whole pile. This sweater holds so much memories for me. This was the first sweater that I ever made. Again, I used Kutovakika's pattern for this, and I will again link it down below. This was fairly simple to make. I'm pretty sure I made this from panels. So you make the front panel and the back panel, and then the sleeves, and then you just stitch them all together. I used this gray wool yarn for this. Again, this was sort of unnamed yarn that I just bought online at the kind of our equivalent of Amazon or eBay. And I used 8mm needles for this project. I must say, I am extremely proud of this project. This was the first sweater that I ever made. This was literally probably a month into me starting to knit. And I was so proud of it when I finished it. I even wore it for my graduation, which took place in February. So I must say, this kept me really warm, and I'll put some pictures in here of me wearing it under my graduation gown. That being said, oh my god, I did not have a clue what I was doing. First of all, I didn't really know anything about yarn weights or anything like that, so I thought, well, as long as I match the gauge, the gauge, as long as I match the gauge to what is specified in the pattern, I'll be okay. Well, as we learn, that's not really the case. So in the pattern that Kutovakika shared, she uses a thinner yarn, I believe, so it creates a much sort of lighter fabric. This is really thick. And I'm pretty sure I should have, if I were ever to knit with this yarn again, I'm pretty sure I need to go up in needle size. I think this is the smallest suggested needle size for this yarn. So in that sense, this yarn is not very well suited for this pattern, and the sweater doesn't fit the same way that I wanted it to fit. I also made some modifications along the way because I was so confident that I could do it as my first sweater project, and basically I ended up kind of decreasing the size of where I attached the sleeve, and I also lengthened the sleeve because I thought it was a bit too short. Well, it turns out once you block a sweater, the sleeves, especially for wool, often grow, and I didn't know that. So now the sleeves are a bit too long, to be honest. And if you can see this sort of color, I don't really like how bulky it looks. And the last thing is, gray is not really my color, so to be honest, I don't ever wear this sweater. That being said, I am never going to get rid of it, at least for the near future. So I think this will go into A for effort. At this point, I don't know what happened to my skill level, but we're taking a huge jump here, because the next sweater I made, this is a fairy sweater from Banul Story. which is a store selling all things knitting and crochet here in Seoul, South Korea. I mean, just look at this. This yarn is the softest yarn I think I've ever felt. This yarn is also called fairy yarn, I'm pretty sure. And the composition is 57% acrylic, 40% nylon, and 3% wool. It is so soft. I absolutely love wearing this. It comes in this gorgeous color blueberry. And I made this sweater using 3.5mm needles. I must say this is my pride and treasure. Wearing this feels like I'm wearing a cloud. Another thing I'm extremely proud of for this project is I modified the sleeves. In the original pattern, the sleeves just kind of go out straight at 90 degree, but I basically learned and implemented German short rows on this. I did all the calculations. I don't know how I did this or how I had the confidence to do this, but I modified the pattern, and so now it has these sort of, not balloon sleeves, but they're a little bit more kind of hugging the curve. And the original sweater pattern comes with long sleeves, but I decided to make them short sleeve. I must say this was not the most smart decision because this does have a little bit of wool in this, so it feels kind of warm when I'm wearing it, but then it's short sleeve, so it's not extremely practical. And also, it kind of shrunk in length after I blocked it, and I wish I would have made it a little bit longer. I do have leftover yarn, so I could do it, but this rib edge at the bottom is actually folded, so I would have to take off pretty much 20 centimeters of rib and redo it, which, to be honest, I'm not really willing to do. Still, I love this so much. I love wearing it. That being said, because it's not extremely practical, I don't wear this every day. But because I am so proud of how I made it, yeah, we're still gonna put it in the daily tier. Daily tier it is. Now this next project, we're taking another huge jump, and it is going to be, well, you'll see. This is the Finesse sweater. Again, I got the pattern from Banul Story. This is a balloon short sleeve top, and it uses the King Wool Finesse cotton silk yarn, so it's a mixture of cotton and silk, so it's this kind of soft material. It comes in black, a very saturated black, and I made this using, I think, 3.5mm needles. Basically, my idea with this was I wanted to recreate the fairy sweater that I just showed you, but in a little bit more wearable color and wearable material. So I went with this. Well, it didn't go very well. First of all, this is very heavy. I was kind of going for a lightweight, sort of summery kind of top, but this yarn ended up being really heavy, so this sweater weighs a lot. It doesn't feel airy, it doesn't feel light at all. Another thing is I didn't really notice that this was the cotton and silk blend. I thought it was just cotton, and while the silk does make it feel silky, I personally don't think I really enjoy that. I think I prefer powdery cotton, if that makes sense. So I kind of wish I would have gone for a different yarn. But again, this was a package, sort of, you get the pattern and the yarn for it from the store, and I kind of, yeah, I don't know. Another thing I don't particularly enjoy about this object is I think saturated black doesn't fully suit me, at least not in this type of object. I enjoy wearing black t-shirts, but something about this in such a strong black color just doesn't suit the vibe that I was going for. Again, I was going for something more airy, more light, more summery, and I think just I could have gone with a different color like a beige or light green or some pastel color that would have made this much better. And the last thing about this, I will input some close shots of this, but basically this was the pattern where I realized that my pearls are extremely loose, so I have to go down a needle size in my pearls, and even when I did that, you can see that the pearl rows on this are still significantly bigger, and it really stands out. I think when others look at it, they don't necessarily notice it as much, but it stands out to me and it bothers me so much. So I kind of don't enjoy wearing it because I know I could make this so much better with different materials and different skills. I can do my pearls much better now. So this sweater just kind of occupies my closet. To be honest, I forget that it exists and I am not willing to remake it. So this is going to go into the Forgotten Valley category for sure. Now for the next object, you would think that it should have gone uphill from there, right? Yeah, no, that didn't happen. So this next top, this is the Ooh La La top, again from Kutovakika. To be honest, I don't remember what needle size I used for this, but I used this beige cotton yarn for this. Now, the first mistake I made here was I bought really cheap cotton yarn from sort of an equivalent of dollar store that we have here. And what I didn't realize was how much this was going to stretch. When I put this on first, after blocking and finishing it, it kind of fit tightly and it was nice. And then I went out wearing it, and then it stretched out so much that it like exposes way too much for my comfort. So I'm not really sure what went wrong there. I don't know if that's because the yarn was cheap, but it's just not fitting me the way that I wanted it to fit. And then the second and arguably bigger mistake that I made was I didn't buy enough yarn. So I had to go back and buy the same color, but as we all know, dyeing yarn can result in different colors. So if you buy yarn with a different lot number, it might likely be of a different color, which is what happened here. So if you look closely, you can see that the color kind of changes halfway through the top, and it bothers me so much because it's not big enough difference to be like on purpose, but it's also very visible so much that it's noticeable. And that being said, this color choice is horrible for me. This looks like my skin, so I'm pretty sure if I'm wearing this outside and someone looks at me from far away, they might think I'm naked, which is not the vibe that I would like to go for. So for that reason, I didn't even bother making the final alterations because I am not going to wear this again. And for that reason, this is going into the cursed category because I wish this did not exist and I wish I didn't make this. It is so bad. It is so bad, but I hope this is as bad as it gets and I don't go lower than this. The next project that I made was the Ingrid top by PetiteKnit. I made this in a black color. I guess I haven't learned my lesson that black knits are not really great for me, but oh well. I used Angora yarn from Banul Story. The composition was 10% acrylic, 33% wool, 10% Angora, 25% nylon, and 22% viscose. And I think I made this with 3.5mm needles, but I'm not entirely sure. Now, I'm going to say that the yarn choice for this project wasn't the best. I think the sweater turned out a little bit more see-through and a little bit lighter than the pattern was intending to do. And I kind of realized that that was the case as I was kind of getting through the first 20% of the sweater, but I decided to proceed anyway. So I kind of knew what I was getting, but still that's something that I wish I could have done differently. That being said, I absolutely loved getting myself into cable knits. I love making all the different patterns and all the different sort of feelings and structures on the knit. I definitely enjoyed making this pattern as well, so I think I will be remaking this pattern probably in a different yarn weight, so with something thicker, but also in a different color. I think I want to remake this in a beige or some sort of pastel color. I think that would look really nice. So in that sense, the sweater didn't turn out exactly like I think I was envisioning it. Still, I think it turned out really nicely. I think it looks beautiful when I wear it, but because, I don't know, something about this, maybe it's the thinness of it or the fact that it's in black and it doesn't show off the cables as nicely. I don't wear this every single day, so I think I'm gonna put this into special occasion. This was really nice. I think I did really well on this sweater with the skills that I had, but I think I can do it better, and I will. So special occasion it is. Now the 8th project that I will be showing you is an unfinished object. This is the love letter top from Kutovakika. For this project, I used cotton mini cones from Banul Story. This is 100% cotton, and this is in color rosewood. And I used 3.5mm needles for this top. Now, as you can see, it is unfinished. It is pretty much, I want to say halfway, maybe 60% done. The reason why is I started making this end of August or early September, and at that point it is still very hot in Korea, but it quickly gets colder towards October and so on. So by the time that I was sort of halfway through the sweater, it started to get a bit more chilly and I started to look forward to wearing my sweaters and such. And actually another project came along that I will show you as my next item that I was really looking forward to so much that I kind of put this on the back seat. Another thing is, I think this yarn is a little bit too thin for this. Something went wrong with my hearts here. So the pattern features hearts and they're supposed to be hearts, right? But I have these holes here for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe I wasn't knitting sort of tightly enough, or maybe the yarn is too thin for this. So the top is going to be a little bit more see-through, I think, than I was intending and then the pattern was intending. Still, I will definitely finish this, maybe next spring when summer 2024 comes around. I'm looking forward to wearing this. I think this is going to be wonderful for the hot weather that we have here. However, because this has been in my unfinished objects pile for a couple months now, I think, unfortunately, this has to go into the Forgotten Valley for now, but I will definitely come back to this in 2024. And I must say, I absolutely love this pattern. I think I love knitting lace as much as I love knitting cables because it doesn't get boring. You always have something new in the pattern, so you don't get bored just doing knits and purls all the time. So I absolutely enjoy knitting lace and I look forward to continuing this project next spring. So now we've come to object number 9, the last one on this list, and it is not on this pile because it is actually on my needles right now. Yes, I started this project, I want to say it's been probably a month or two, and that is because I had to redo some bits and pieces. But this is the Elisabeth blouse from PetiteKnit, and I used the same Angora yarn from Banul Story that I used for the Ingrid sweater, but I am using one size smaller needles, which I think results in much tighter fabric that I really enjoy. This is in a gorgeous brown color, and I really want to have a brown sweater in my closet. I absolutely fell in love with the pattern and the simplicity and the minimalism of it, but also having this sort of color, adding it a nice sort of modern touch. I absolutely look forward to wearing this so much. I can already envision how good this is going to look, and I can only hope that this will turn out as good as it looks in my head. The only concern I have about this is, as I told you, I know that I do my purls much more loosely than I do my knits. And usually I go down one needle size, but even when doing so, my purls were still looser than my knits in the sweater, so I ended up going 2 sizes lower. So knit rows in the sweater I did with 3mm needles, and then my purl rows I actually did with 2mm needles, which are very, very small. And I think halfway through that, I sort of figured out how to make my purls tighter. So now I'm worried that my purls ended up being too tight and that this upper part might be too tight and too small for me to fit in. However, I have already restarted this project once because of this purl problem, and I know that if I was to restart this again, I will never ever finish this. So my plan for now is just to continue knitting and then hope for the best. I hope this kind of stretches out and takes shape as I block this. You can see that I'm maybe, I want to say 30% done with this. So I'm really, really looking forward to wearing this once this is done. So this is definitely going to go into the daily tier on my ranking. Just putting this out into the universe that this will turn out well enough to be worn on the daily. So this concludes all the knits that I've done in 2023. Now that I look at this, there were some really big fails, but there were also some projects that I absolutely loved both making, and I still love wearing them. I feel like I learned so much in my first year of knitting, and I know that anything that I make from now on will only get better in quality, and I will make pieces that I will enjoy wearing every single day. That being said, after I finish my Elisabeth blouse, I already have some ideas on what I want to knit next. And I'm planning to make another video soon about all the patterns that I want to try in 2024, so please look forward to that. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed taking a look at all of the knits that I made during my first year of knitting. This was really fun. I hope you enjoyed me praising some of them, but also roasting some of them and roasting myself and my skills that I had this year. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a lovely rest of the day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!